and turn off my computer sound and say hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this conversation this evening. Just to let you know, this conversation is being recorded. We have heard that participants would like to have access to this, and not everybody can make it tonight. So, the Rich, if there are any guidelines around the recording that you want to share, what is or isn't included, I'll just invite you to share anything about that if anybody has concerns. And as people are joining, I will say if you are able to keep your camera on, that's great. You don't have to. I know it's evening. We've had probably a long day. And I'd love if you are here, though, if you want to type into the chat your name, where you're interning, and third, what has been your favorite moment of the summer so far? And it's okay if it's still the Knicks. And for the panelists, if you wouldn't mind, you're welcome to participate in this activity as well. Name where you intern or work, your favorite moment of the summer, and panelists, if you are also able to adjust your name, where you type your name, if you're able to just also type your organization. If we remember even how to do that. I think if you right click your image, there should be an option that says rename. Savara has just modeled it. Amazing. I'm seeing some notes come into the chat. Yes, yes, okay. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, folks. So I will just paste this into the chat in case anyone didn't hear me before. Amazing. We've got some folks typing in. I thought I just pasted and I did not paste, so let me try one more time. There we go. So if you want to type your name, where you're interning or working, and your favorite moment of the summer so far. So Christopher's favorite moment is finishing biology 2. Congratulations. Love that. Bianca's favorite moment is bonding with your PI and mentor. Awesome. Love that. Julianne Salazar, one of our panelists. Ooh, watching her 10-year-old play softball. Awesome. Arvin, fixing problems. Ooh, glad to hear it, Arvin. Fixing problems on the fly. Great. Well, thanks everyone. I think we will go ahead and get started with the panel. So, Rich, if you are able to pin, oh, I see Kaylee. Sorry, Kaylee has also just typed in, working at Weill Cornell and seeing Tame Impala twice. Awesome. And yes, Ellie, World Cup final at a dog grooming salon. Okay, nice. Shania, yes. Harlem Biospace, absolutely. Favorite moment was the Knicks win. And Amina, she's at Albert Einstein. Favorite moment, World Cup. Fantastic, everyone. Okay. Um, so let's get started with the panel. I'm not sure, I'm not seeing the pinning happening, so I'm going to go ahead and pin everybody here who is a panelist. And
So I pinned everyone. Did it not? Oh, I think it's Spotlight. Uh,
oh, I see.
yeah.
Okay,
Um,
got it.
I will do that for.
Okay, great. I, when we were under lockdown, I felt like I was much better at Zoom, and now Zoom has added all these features that I am less familiar with. So thank you, Rich, for spotlighting all of us, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, a little context. And if you know me, you know I'm big on context because I don't like jumping in to solve problems. I have to define the problem. It's an old habit from being a consultant. So we originally named this panel Transfer Student Career Panel. But as we prepared and spoke to each of the panelists, we realized that each of these panelists has a unique perspective on what it means to create a career path, to create not just a career, but a career path as you exit LaGuardia and advance your career. So, with that framing, we really wanted to see it as an arc from where you are today to where you want to get to in the future. So we have four fantastic individuals who are going to speak about different parts of this process. And panelists, thank you for putting in your name and your organization. And we've got everybody spotlighted. So maybe during, if there is a lot of Q&A, we can unspotlight folks so we can see everyone. I'm going to just first share the names and the roles of everybody, and then I will invite each of the panelists to introduce themselves. So first up, we have Dr. Julianne Salazar, who is the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Office of the Provost. She's a transfer student herself and knows a whole lot about the transfer process within CUNY. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Alberto Corona, who's a postdoctoral researcher at Mount Sinai. He's hosting some of you as interns this summer, also a transfer student. Third, we'll hear from Amina Shahim, a LaGuardia Community College graduate who transferred to Cornell, just graduated beginning of the summer. And this week, she started her PhD in, I think it's molecular biology and immunology at Albert Einstein. And last but not least, your very own Savara Ibraminova, who will share tips on what to focus on from the career perspective once you land in your new institute. So with that in mind, Dr. Salazar, can you kick us off? Just tell us a little bit about your professional and personal journey, a brief tour of where you've been, some important details, how you came to New York. Please jump on in.
Great. Thank you so much, Anita. I'm so excited to be here today. Um, Transfer is very much part of my life's work. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. First person in my family to graduate from high school and the first person in my family to graduate from college. And so, navigating community college and then becoming a transfer student, navigating graduate school, navigating doctoral programs, professional life, right? A lot of it I did on my own. And it was the CUNY support systems and resources that really played an integral role in helping me navigate my path. So I'm always really excited to be part of these sorts of conversations to help others who might be in similar, looking to tap into similar resources at CUNY. So I started my academic career at Kingsborough Community College. It's where I got my associate's degree. I transferred to a small liberal arts college called Marymount Manhattan College, where I got a bachelor's in political science. I went on to get a master's degree in public administration, and then went on to get a doctorate in education from NYU. And for me, my interest in my work has always been around looking at systems, looking at how things work and how to make them better, particularly, for students and particularly for transfer students. And so a lot of my work now as a director of strategic initiatives is really focused on looking at the college's systems and how they're supporting students with preparing for transfer. And not just preparing for transfer, but succeeding after they transfer. And so this sort of connection between transfer and career is something that I'm super passionate about. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll come back to you with some questions shortly. I'm going to go to Alberto. If you could give us a brief tour of your professional and personal history.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm also very excited to be here. So like you mentioned before, I'm also a transfer student. I was born in the US, but I grew up in Mexico. And I didn't learn to speak English when I was in the US. My parents left when I was 3 years old. So when I came back, because I didn't speak the language, I had to start taking all the English as a second language programs at the community college in California. So Normally, you will probably spend about 2 years at a community college and then transfer, but because I didn't speak the language, it took me a little bit longer. So I was at the community college for about 4.5 years. And then I transferred to the University of California, Riverside, where I did my bachelor's in biology. My undergrad research was in plant biology, and at the time, I never thought that I was going to end up in neuroscience. So after I finished my bachelor's, I started thinking about PhD programs, and I applied for PhD programs that had what they're called umbrella programs because I was not exactly sure where I wanted to go. So these programs allow you to uh, like get enrolled in the program and then decide which lab you're going to join, and it could be any of the fields that are part of the program. And where I ended up going was actually here in New York. It's called Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. And the reason why I picked that place was because they have a very strong plant biology program. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep in plants, but they also have a very strong program in neuroscience. So I joined that PhD program, and then I ended up actually not doing any of my rotations in plant bio. So all of them were in neuroscience. So I graduated with my PhD in 2022, and I've been a postdoc since at Mount Sinai. And my work now focuses on the effects of stress and social isolation on the brain and how that can lead to different uh, uh, disorders and different how it can affect different cellular architectures in the brain. And I'm focused on the intersection between the immune system and neuroscience by looking at how immune cells in the brain can regulate neural activity after periods of social isolation. And now we're meeting on Zoom. And if you remember during the pandemic, this was all of our social interactions. So the cases of mental health disorders skyrocketed after a brief period of social isolation. So I'm very passionate about that. And something else I'm really passionate about is helping out community college students. And I can talk a little bit more about how I'm doing that later. But yeah, this is my background.
Thank you so much. Stress, the impact of stress on the brain, huh? I feel like it's all relevant. Great. Thank you. So next, Amina, could you tell us a little about your professional and personal history?
Yes. Oh, for unfortunately, it's not going to be as long as both of their has been. So, but similar journey. Community college student at LaGuardia. I immigrated to the U.S. From Bangladesh about just right after pandemic. So it was still in that era where I wasn't able to attend a lot of ESL classes. Also, didn't speak English, so that was a big struggle in terms of getting into classes and just jobs also, because that's something as immigrant we also have to look for, able to sustain ourselves. And I was able to get into a learning center, and from there I did my GED and then enrolled into LaGuardia Community College, mostly because it was convenient, not being from the US. Transportation was also another struggle, so it was much easier to just or much convenient to go to. And after that, after staying there and really understanding what college is and credits are, it was also first generation, so kind of had to figure it out. Me and I was fortunate to have both of my siblings as well at LaGuardia, so it was like us figuring it out by ourselves in this world. But we did get a lot of help and support from a lot of mentors there who we're still very close to. I did my associate in biology and then was able to transfer to Cornell University, where I also studied biological sciences. And some of my just professional or just like student-led organizations that I was part of were also very affinity related. I was part of McNair Scholars Program at Cornell, which is very much geared towards diversity students and kind of giving them more resources to go into a PhD programs, which I was also thinking of at that point. So able to be in a community where we had similar struggles, but also a similar path that we wanted to go to really helped in that essence of another mentorship layer that I was able to get. And then I also knew that I wanted to do something immunology related for PhD. I was part of a microbiome lab at Cornell where I did work on bacteria and how they cause diseases in humans, but really didn't connect with human cells or did any work in that. So when I was applying to PhD, my main intention was to look at translational medicine work, any institution that had a hospital attached, because it was just much easier to do work in that sense. So Einstein was one of the institution in New York City, which was very big on translational and is very big on that. So I was very fortunate to get in and still like figure out my rotations, but I kind of have an idea of what I want to do. And for future, I don't know yet if I want to do academia or industry, but that's how far I am currently. But definitely enjoying the first few days here, and yeah, hopefully I'll have a good career in the forward. Yes, but thank you so much for inviting me. It's so good to be among LaGuardia's and CUNY's people.
Thank you so much, Amina. And we'll give you a pass on not having your walls completely decorated yet, since I think you moved in this week. So thank you for taking a little time in a busy week. And last but not least, Savara, if you can share with us a little bit about your professional and personal journey to LaGuardia.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sevar Ibrahimova, and I currently work as Career and Experiential Learning Advisor at LaGuardia, where I support our students with internships, professional development, and career planning. I'm originally from Uzbekistan, where I earned my associate degree in nursing and my bachelor's degree in English language and literature. I later moved to New York City with my family and completed my master's degree in higher education administration at Baruch College. Before joining LaGuardia, I also gained experiences in career services, employee relations, student programming, and academic administration at several CUNY colleges. I'm also currently completing a certificate at LaGuardia in data analytics and data science because I believe career development doesn't stop after earning a degree, and we must continue building new skills as industries and workplaces change. And one of my favorite things about New York is its diversity. You can meet people from any different cultures, hear several languages in one day, and find opportunities that you may have never imagined before coming here. So I also love New York at night when the city feels quieter and still full of energy. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Savara. Congratulations on your master's. Thank you for highlighting that sounds like you're a lifelong learner, continuing to take additional courses and keep learning. So that is who we have on our panel. So pretty impressive group of people who can speak to different aspects of what does it mean to transfer. And welcome. I know that a few folks have joined in the past couple of minutes. Hello, welcome. Hopefully you can see our panelists. If you want to be on camera, you're welcome to. If you want to be off camera, it's okay. Let me now then go to the first question for Dr. Salazar. I was so intrigued when you and I spoke. You had a concept around backwards planning, and you were saying, you got to start with the career that you're aiming for. Transfer is a process that can help you get there. Can you help us understand how you work or explain how you work with students and what does that backwards planning process mean?
Yeah, thank you. I think when any student starts their college career, there are so many decisions, right, that they're expected to make, like right up front, right? You have to know exactly what you want to do. You have to know what classes you want to take, what clubs are you interested in, what lifestyle do you want to have. There's a feeling that I think many students and I think many of us can relate to, a feeling like you have to sort of know everything. And I think, particularly and there's a particular pressure for community college students to sort of have a sense of what they're doing and kind of making very quick decisions. And so for me, whenever I'm working with students one-on-one or leading workshops, I really like to have folks take a step back and think about what is the ultimate goal for them, right? What's the North Star? What's the career that you're thinking about, that you're dreaming about? And I just said, well, you don't have to know everything because you don't, right? It's not necessarily that you have to have your exact dream career mapped out. I meet students every single day that don't. I was one of them. I changed my major a few times in my in my own academic career. But really, there's your that maybe absence of knowing exactly what you want to do can be a data point. It can be um, something that can guide your curiosity to help you get clearer, right? And so step one for me when working with students is let's think about your career goals. Where is it that you'd like to end up? And then we work backwards. Does your career require a license? Does your career require a graduate program? Does your career require internships? Right? Does your career require prerequisites? And I'm always very transparent. I'm so sorry if you can hear my my children in the background. Um, and I'm always very transparent with students. I'm not the expert on everything. You yourself as the student, you will become the expert on your own pathway, right? My goal and my work is to help you with finding reliable resources, right? Building trust within yourself to make decisions and navigating resources. But ultimately, you're the expert in navigating your own pathway. And so there's a few sort of conversations that I like to have with students around career. What do you need to get to that career? And then what are the resources available to you to help you, right, get to where you want to go? And so in thinking about um, LaGuardia specifically, one of the things that's sort of unique, and I think Amina, you were at LaGuardia when this transition happened. The college doesn't have a transfer office. And so that was something that happened a few years ago. And it really, the intention behind it was that transfer does not exist separate from your academic decision making, right? All the choices you make around your classes, your major, your career, transfer is in the middle, right, of all of that. And so when you pull transfer out of that planning, it can become a fractured conversation when folks don't have all the information. What is the career that you want to go? How are you doing in some of your academic courses? What are some internships that are going to get you to where you need to be? And so LaGuardia has been making a very intentional effort. I think this panel is a really excellent example of how transfer, career, and academics, how they all need to work together in order for students to reach their careers, their ultimate career goals. The other thing I'll add in terms of sort of, career transfer and career preparation is one of the things that I learned in my own research with talking to students who had successfully transferred. There were two main skills that they demonstrated. One was that they were willing to ask questions. So they were curious and they were willing to seek the help that they needed. And so if they weren't sure about something, they didn't know what major to pick, they couldn't figure out where to find an internship, they rolled their sleeves up and asked questions and got really curious. The second thing that they did was that they self-advocated for themselves. And so sometimes when we ask for help, we don't always get it. And so the students who were insistent on accessing the support and the resources that they needed, inevitably it helped them move along the pathway and move along from one resource to another. And so I really encourage students, one, to trust themselves in terms of identifying what types of support and resources they need, and to be insistent on getting those resources and support, right? Because one of the things that we know about CUNY, and we love CUNY, I'm a CUNY alum, I worked for CUNY my entire career, it's a very large system. And many of us may go on to work in large systems. And so that sort of self-advocacy, asking questions, right, is just a really helpful skill that I think supports students in all of their, in all aspects of their life, career, transfer, academics, right, even your personal lives, where you have to sometimes self-advocate for ourselves personally. And so there's, so I'll end with, At LaGuardia, there's a ton of resources. You have your academic advisors, you have CCPD, you have your faculty mentors, right? You have peer leaders, and sometimes it can be a little overwhelming in terms of where to go, how to know where to go for help. And so what I'm going to just recommend for those of you who are on the call, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you don't know where to start, I'm going to give you the Transfer Resources webpage. When you have some time, just take a look at it. There's lots of information that helps you find the resources you need based on the question you have and what you're looking for. I also will put my name in the chat. And so if you ever have questions or you just don't know where to go, please feel free to send me an email, and I will always be happy to get you to where you need to go when it comes to finding resources at the college. Okay. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Salazar. Amazing knowledge bombs that have just been dropped. Um, two skills. And I was taking notes the whole time. There were lots of great things that Dr. Salazar said, but remember these two skills. Be willing to ask questions, be insistent. You haven't gotten to where you are because you just sit back and watch things happen, right? You've been able to make things happen for yourself. Thank you, Dr. Salazar, for also sharing those resource, that link, and your contact information. I'm going to go to Alberto now, and I just also want to invite all the panelists after each share, if there is something any of you wants to add, please just take yourself off mute and jump in. But first, now let me go to Alberto. So you know a lot about helping transfer students get into academia. So what are some of your key tips? I know when we had spoken, you mentioned things like research experience, getting the timing right. So how do you help students who are thinking about applying for their PhD?
Yes. So yeah, first of all, I agree totally with what was said before. And to kind of start getting at your question, I feel like it's always great to have a goal in mind, like it was mentioned before. But it doesn't mean that you cannot explore many different things. And that's something that actually helped me throughout my path, because at the beginning, when I started at the community college, I wanted to go to med school. And when I was at the community college, my younger brother was diagnosed with brain cancer, and I spent 6 months in the hospital with him. And I learned from that, like I really can't be in a hospital dealing with patients for the rest of my career. So even though that at the time that was my goal, like being exposed to being there for that long period of time kind of made me realize like I didn't really feel like I had the emotional capacity to be dealing with all the pain of patients and their families. And then I changed my path. I wanted to go to pharmacy school, still kind of being in a hospital, but not directly working with patients. When I was at the community college, I was exploring this, and I got an associate's in pharmacy technology. I started working at Walgreens, and I found that it was extremely boring for me. So then I decided, okay, I saw what actually a pharmacist, I saw what they do. And then I started thinking, is it really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And then all of these changes sound like it was huge to go from one thing to the next, but in reality, the classes I was taking at the community college were the same for pre-med and the same that were for pre-pharmacy. And then I started participating in summer programs. So one of the programs was very similar to this one. So first of all, congratulations for being part of this program. And this is now getting back to the question, like what tips can I give you that will help you with getting admission to a good program for grad school? A lot of the people that apply have a lot of research experience. And this is, to me, it's a little bit insane, because like you have 4 years for your bachelor's, and then you have people that apply for PhD programs with publications, and then you're like, wow, like how can they have that? Like I don't have that. And I feel like one of the things that we can do as community college transfer students is to start getting exposure to research through all of these summer programs. And when I was a community college student, I participated in one between my community college and the university that was next to it, which was UC Riverside. So that was the beginning of how everything started, because when I participated in that program, I started doing plant biology research, and that exposed me to the academic world. Then I figure out, okay, this is something I really enjoy. I forget pharmacy, forget med school. I want to do research. And I knew I wanted to do science, not necessarily exactly what the science was going to be, but the summer programs were great for that, because the first one was in plant biology. Then that program led me to, like, I asked for letters of recommendation through this program. Then I could apply for the second one. I applied for a second summer program, and I got accepted to one. Something I want to mention here, I actually applied to 7 and I got rejected from 6, and I got accepted to 1. So if you want to stay in academia, rejection is something that you're gonna have to deal with, and it's something actually that it's pretty normal in academia. So just be very persistent, keep applying, apply to many things, and then hopefully you'll get the right one for you. So yeah, that second summer program led me to realize that I actually really like neuroscience. So then that's how I started getting in neuroscience. I did that program at Brandeis University in Massachusetts. And then through that program, I got a second letter of recommendation, and I got nominated for another summer program where I actually got to go to the California Institute of Technology to do more neuroscience research. And that sealed the deal. I was like, okay, I think I'm going to stay in neuro. So then after I transfer, I did all these 2 other summer programs. Then I applied for PhD programs. And at the time when I applied, I had already 3 summer programs. So when I wrote my personal statement for my application, so I didn't have publications. So I felt like I was behind on that. But like, it to me, even at this point in my life, I think that an undergrad that comes with publication is actually not the norm. So don't feel bad if you don't have that. But what people actually told me that I spoke with that had some decisions in this admissions committees where sometimes we're actually not looking for the person with the 4.0 GPA or the person with a publication. We want to see the personal statement, and we want to see how persistent people are. And one of the things that you can do is participate in all of these programs, start getting a lot of experience, and then have a story that you can tell with your personal statement. And then with that story, you can say how you overcame different challenges throughout your career, and that actually can help with getting admitted to one of the PhD programs you apply for. So that's one of the things I can tell you. And then back to I really emphasize the summer programs, because as a community college student, you have limited time. So you're gonna transfer, and hopefully you'll stay at a 4-year university only for 2 more years. But that means that if you want to get involved in a research lab, you have to spend at least the first semester trying to get the professors that will give you a chance to work in their lab. So then that limits even more to 1.5 years. And then you have 1 summer. So I think it's great that you're doing it now. And you still have a few summers before you finish your bachelor's. So if you can take advantage of that, if you know you want to stay in academia, keep getting all the experience that you can, and that will actually make you very competitive and give you a very good chance of getting into the program you want. I think I touched on some of the tips I wanted to give. So if I forgot something, maybe I'll remember and I'll share with you later.
Fantastic. I'm taking so many notes here. So what I heard was experiential learning. Try it out, even if it's just shadowing, spending time in that place. Do summer programs. Ask for letters of recommendation. You don't have to have publications, and accept that rejection will be a part of your journey. Persistence. Okay, echoing Dr. Salazar. So next up, Amina. Um, you have most recently had this experience, and it's very similar to what the folks in this program are going to be going through. So, how prepared did you feel for all the steps? What do you wish you maybe had known before?
Yes. I'm looking back, I don't think Cornell was one of the list of colleges that I wanted to go. It was mostly just institutions in New York City and something that had like an articulation with LaGuardia, so it was just easier transition for me. And with Common Application, I believe a lot of the students and my friends, we were applying at the same time. So we were sharing information and things like that. And as Dr. Salazar mentioned, the transfer office was just transitioning out. So there was definitely the lack of support that I feel like our year at least, our cohort at least, kind of felt we were getting. But I was also in President Society, so that kind of meant I had additional support in that instant. I was able to get my essays reviewed and get some of the application reviewed before submitting. So I did feel like I had a little bit of support system in that sense, but other than that, I feel I totally echo with whatever Dr. Salazar mentioned. Definitely self-advocating is a big part of not only life, but transfer process, especially. I feel like that's where you learn a lot of it. Having to go to those information session and transfer fair that LaGuardia hosts, or even like fellow CUNY schools host. I think those really helped the transfer process and understanding that I wanted to stay in biology and these are the majors, these are the courses that I wanted to. I feel like that helps cut down the list of colleges you want to. So planning ahead of time really helps. And that is something that I wish LaGuardia or like back when I was there, so we started that early as we got in. I think our focus was not as concentrated on the transfer as it should have been. And I feel and it's amazing to hear that now that is something what LaGuardia is pushing more towards. Because at the end of the day, I feel like we all want to move on with a bachelor's degree and with the work conditions happening. I think with an associate, there's not a lot opportunities. Even with bachelor's, there isn't. So that is the main aim, and that is how the planning is supposed to be. And yes, I feel like application statement is one of the major portion of transfer application. It's finding out the institutions that you are interested in and kind of making them like accept you in that sense that what are you giving, but also what are you getting from this institution. And I feel like that research, there's a lot of research that you have to put into. So it's not another assignment that you can pull an overnight on, and it's not something that you can just not have anyone else see. I feel like that is something one of the great advice I want to give. Something that I did personally was I had my friends review my statements because I feel like I'm a little more on the humble side. I feel like I don't overdo a lot of my accomplishment. I don't sell them as often. And in application process, that is what you are supposed to do. You know, whether it was a summer 8-week internship, you have to give that pitch in that sense, how much you have learned and how that has changed your life, because that's the truth. And I feel like as community colleges, there is that insecurity in a sense that just there in the back of our head, which not a lot of people talk about, but you should highlight your accomplishment. And I had my friends review it and kind of see that is it implying what I did and who I am in that sense. So that is something I would recommend everyone to do have someone else look over it, whether it's your friends or even faculty mentors. I know at LaGuardia there are over two involved and they love to help. That is the reason why they are teaching at a community college. Not a lot of people know, but that's why they are there, because they love the community and they love helping people, and especially non-traditional students like myself. Uh, Something I wish I knew before going to Cornell in general is to do tour on campus. I feel like that is something I highly recommend if you are interested in going to CUNY as well, any colleges in the city, and some of the programs like ASAP, they also take you to tour some of the colleges, which is really amazing. And I was able to do that. But I remember I went and toured Columbia twice over the summer just because that's the college that I really, really wanted to go. So do utilize their touring opportunities, virtual tour as well if they're really long. I didn't even do virtual tour at Cornell. I was so sure I was not going to get in, and I'm like, I'm just gonna apply and that's it. So definitely take initiative, like I said, be proactive and reach out to offices and transfer offices in their institution because they know the keywords that has to be mentioned in admission. So those are some of the key things I would do want to mention and give advice in that sense. And yeah, I think what made me decide to apply to PhD? Oh, I think that was a tough one, but lifestyle helped me in that. And like Dr. Alberto mentioned, as community colleges, we don't have a lot of transfer of no, research funds as well in institutions. So the summer programs are the key, and they're set in places like LifeSci that helps students like us to get the experience and get ahead in science, right? Have a career in science. And I remember I did life sci in my first summer, the first summer between first year and second year, and that kind of helped me gain more research summer and RAUs. For PhD, I also applied to maybe 10 PhDs, and I only got into one. So sometimes it just takes that one, really. So definitely don't let one no or like nine no kind of pull you down because sometimes if they don't think you're fit, maybe you don't also think them fit, that's something one of my advisors say that when they read your application and they didn't connect with you, it's a sign that maybe they don't have the same values as you do. So it's don't take it as in that sense, take it as that okay, maybe I wouldn't be fit in that institution. So definitely don't let any no from internships or transfer colleges or even future programs hold you down. I feel like sometimes it's better to have integrity, whether you fail in certain phases, but it's not worth losing yourself in many places. So yes, those are some of my advices.
Beautiful. Um, where did my notes go? Yeah, so what was I saying? You mentioned the self-advocacy again. I appreciated that you also mentioned asking for help around getting your essays and your personal statements reviewed. You all have formed a community here of the folks who are in this program. This is your network now. If any of you are thinking, I don't have a network, guess what? You do. Your peers are your network. Your network doesn't have to be up here or down there or out there. It can be right here in this Zoom. So ask the folks here to take a look at your essays. Um, let's see. What else? Ooh, I loved what you also said about touring places. Maybe find a buddy here in this program and just say, hey, want to go check this place out? Anybody want to go check it out with me? And uh, Amina mentioned LifeSci. That is another program that the team at Upper West Strategies I'm putting a link there into the chat. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's another summer internship program, so check that out. There are year-round internships, so it's over for the summer, but there are always opportunities coming up. And before I go to Savara, just want to ask Dr. Salazar, Dr. Corona, Amina, how has your graduate school been funded? Because that's a question that came up recently. So I'll start with Amina, Alberto, and then Dr. Salazar.
Yes, funding has been a very big issue, and that also limits a lot of cohort sizes. So they take in students as much as the college or institution can fund, right? So that's one of the big thing. You are funded for the first year by your college. So Einstein will be paying me for the first year, and then the labs are going to pay. So that is something that as you walk around and find the different labs, that's one of the questions we are encouraged to ask our PIs or prospective PIs that do you have money to fund me for that 4+ years, right? And that's an honest question that we are encouraged to ask, and labs and PIs are actually encouraged to not come to do flash talks and sort of promote their labs if they cannot fund us in that sense. So a lot of the institutions are very very frank about it, and they're not like, oh, like I like you, but I can't fund you, and they're not being like that. So they're very straightforward. But there are a lot of graduate funding, and I was actually lucky enough to get the NSF graduate research funding. So the institution or the lab will not be paying me, and I will be paid by the government. So in that case, those are other funding opportunities that PhD students or even like senior at a bachelor institution can apply, and that will actually make your application more attractive because the colleges know that they have one less person to fund. So yeah, that's my current experience.
Thank you, Alberto.
Yes, so I think I understood the question from a different angle because I was thinking that when you ask about how grad school is funded, I thought you also meant about how the students are paid. Because when you go to grad school, that's basically your job. So you are getting paid, you're getting a stipend. And as Amina was saying, that stipend has to come from somewhere. So depending on the program, that funding source could be a different thing. But I'm saying all this because if you get accepted into a PhD program, at least in the sciences, you'll be paid. And the programs have different funding sources. Mine was slightly different than when Amina was describing. Mine actually funded me for the first 4 years. And then the last year I was paid by my PI or principal investigator. But that that was a huge selling point for me to join the program at Cold Spring Harbor because I knew that I was guaranteed that I was not going to have to worry for funding for the first 4 years. And that also guarantees that most of the labs in the institution will take you because they know they don't have to pay you. So they don't have to worry about finding the money for you. And then Amina was saying, first, congratulations, Amina. That fellowship is a huge accomplishment. And you can apply for different grants. As a grad student, you are eligible to apply for federal funding. You can apply for foundation grants. And if you get any of these grants, there are some institutions that actually even increase your stipend. So Cold Spring Harbor, for example, I think increased the stipend by 10% if you had an external fellowship. I think that was the question. I don't want to keep talking, but maybe Dr. Salazar can say something more.
Sure, yeah. So my doctorate is actually, it's not a PhD, it's a EDD, which is a doctorate in education. So it's a different sort of degree than PhDs, which are typically research focused. EDD and funded, as was shared. EDDs are more practitioner based, meaning that you're kind of looking at specific problems and coming up with specific solutions that you're applying in real time. So often folks are working while they're also in the EDD programs, which was my case. And so typically those programs are not funded. However, I've been a public servant for over 15 years. And so I was able to have my degree, my loans forgiven through the public student loan forgiveness. And so that is, I know things are sort of not really consistent right now, but I would recommend that if you are thinking about a career in public service, to know that public student loan forgiveness is and continues to be an option. And so I'm just going to put that link in the chat just so you can kind of take a look. And I'm also happy to answer questions about public student loan forgiveness. So that's how I was able to cover the costs for my degree.
Yes, I'm sorry if I misinterpreted the question, but I wanted to also add that with PhD, there's other sort of incentives that come with, including insurance and also housing. So those are also something that when you're applying for PhD, you can think about. There's also the perk of not able to or not to do a master's. I know a lot of students also that is something an attractive point where in your third year of PhD or sometimes your second year, but mostly at the end of second year, you are able to do like a qualifying exam and are awarded a master's, which is something that you don't have to pay for. And if you want, then you can go on with a career with a master's, but it's highly recommended to finish the PhD phase. So that is something, especially in science, whether it's academia or industry, I feel like it's something that to really look ahead of because there's a lot of opportunities more than in just these two. There's government, there's law, there's so much that you can do with a PhD in biomedical science or anything. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for answering the question, and I'm sorry if I was unclear. Thank you. So, Savara, I think if you can help us round this out, because not everybody wants to do a PhD, and that's okay. There may be other options. What should students be thinking about as they plan to matriculate into a four-year college, and how might you be able to help?
So, for students who plan to transfer at four-year college but are not sure whether they want to pursue academia or PhD, my first advice is just echoing Dr. Salazar. You do not need to have your entire life figured out before you transfer. So, however, you guys as students, begin exploring your options intentionally because bachelor's degree is not just a credential. It should also help you develop your skills, uh, expand your network, and get experience that prepare you different career pathways. So the first questions students should ask themselves, I think, is not just only what major should I choose or what college I should choose. It's just what kind of work do I see myself doing? And what problems am I interested in solving? I'm also echoing Dr. Corona here. So I'm gonna add what type of environment do I want to work in the future? And I believe students also should research the careers connected to their intended major before selecting a transfer school. For example, they can go to look at the actual job postings on LinkedIn or Career Connect, as you guys all may know, and Handshake we have at LaGuardia Community College. And just look at the job postings, even if you are not ready to apply or even if you are not applying, pay attention, all the technical skills, experiences, and communications. So that helps you also understand what you should begin building during your college, in your four-year college. And I also recommend finding someone who is currently doing the type of work you are interested in doing in the future and requesting a brief information interview. I've been telling all my students since they started internship, find someone in your internship site and request information interview. Ask them about their daily responsibilities, how they entered the field, the skills, qualification that their job requires, and what they wish they had known as a college student. It's based from my actual personal experience. When I was doing my associate degree in nursing, I also interned in one of the hospitals in Uzbekistan in gastroenterology department. And at that time, I thought I was gonna be a nurse for the rest of my life. But after like talking to one of my mother's friends who was a nurse at that time, I figured that I don't want to be a nurse. And I changed my career. And I just want to emphasize the fact that your first career choice doesn't have to be permanent. And I also strongly encourage students not to wait until senior year to think about their careers. Begin in your first semester after transferring. First visit a career center, meet with your academic advisor, speak with your professor. Your academic advisor can help you stay on track with all the degree requirements, but the career center actually helps you connect your education to employment. Your career advisors can help with the career exploration, your resumes, interview preparation, internships, networking, and just understanding the job market. Um, and just piggyback off the point that I mentioned earlier, your first career choice doesn't have to be permanent. Your interests may change as you take classes, complete internships, and learn about different industries, talking to people. This is called career exploration, and it's not a sign that you're lost. I would also recommend that every student should create a simple plan for each semester. That's what I did in my graduate school. Ask yourself what I should be completing by the end of this semester, what skill I should be developing, and what professional relationship will I build by the end of the semester. For example, during the first semester, your goal might be to meet with your career center, your advisors, update your resumes, attend one networking event, meet with new people, and apply for at least, let's say, 3 internships. And finally, I want to mention that transferring is not the final destination. It's just one giant step forward to a much larger goal. Whether you eventually choose graduate school, PhD, or master's, employment, or public service, as Dr. Salazar mentioned, or healthcare, another field, use your time at 4-year college to explore, build experience, and create professional network. That's it.
Beautiful. We only have a few minutes. Does anyone have questions for our awesome panelists?
Um, I guess my question would be, how did you guys go about like going from your first like work experience, internship, researching to getting the next one? Because the programs that we've been afforded access to are very good, but at the same time, being realistic, they're kind of like training wheels in a way, which I appreciated. I needed them, but eventually we're gonna be kind of like out on our own, competing against other people, like you said, with researching experience and publications and all of these things. And it's like, okay, how do we even just go about finding our next opportunity? What would be like some of the recommendations you guys could put forth or anything like that? Any like quick tips or just something that you feel like, oh, like I was struggling before and now I started doing this and it's a game changer for me because I'm getting a lot more offers, or I'm finding a lot more opportunities and stuff like that. Because I think a lot of us in the program, like you said before, we are people that are kind of goal oriented and we're trying to like kickstart our own careers by not just sitting around and waiting for something to happen to us or like a good opportunity to fall out of the sky. We're like trying to be go-getters, but sometimes it's hard to be a go-getter when you don't even know where the next opportunity is or where you should be looking. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks, Arvin. Dr. Salazar, do you want to start?
Sure. I think this is a fantastic question. I think one of the best things that you can do in your current internship is to build relationships that are going to extend beyond the internship. So rather than thinking about the opportunity, I think thinking about who are the people that you're working with, who know you well, who can speak to your work, and would speak highly of you in a room that you're not in. And how do you maintain relationships with those people so that when an opportunity does come up, it's your name that's at the top of their mind? Because so much of how a lot of, in terms of placement and opportunities, a lot of it is based off of access and networks. And that's part of what is so wonderful about this program is that you're really getting immersed in that. And so I would emphasize the importance of building relationships with your current internship folks and maintaining them once the internship is done.
Nice. Anyone else have something to add?
I guess I can quickly say that so you mentioned a phrase about training wheels. And I was thinking about this in a way that this is a great opportunity for you, not just to learn a particular technique or be an expert on a particular field. Like realistically speaking, like we're not going to cure cancer in a 10-week internship, but I totally agree with the relationships that you build will be extremely valuable because you can the next one you identify is probably going to require letters of recommendation. So you can get that letter from the first program you participated in. And then the next one, I will take it also as an opportunity for you to explore whether you like something or not, and keep building your network and getting more of these relationships. But I would not take it as this is just like training for this particular thing and not that valuable. I think it is extremely valuable, and you can benefit so much from all of these summer programs.
Great. We are at time, so if you need to drop off, I understand. And I think maybe in closing, I think it's from The Hobbit or a Tolkien book. All who wander are not lost. So if you are exploring, career exploration does not mean you are lost. I think that's what Savara said. So if panelists you are feel comfortable sharing your LinkedIn profile or your contact information, if you want to put that into the chat, I'll invite you to do that. If you have another preferred way that you want to talk to me about separately, please just let me know. But participants, thank you. Thanks, Bianca, for the correction. Thank you, panelists. How about we give you all amazing round of applause. Participants, if you want to shower the participants, the panelists with any like woohoo, yes.
Thank
Well
you so much for
done.
coming, guys. Really appreciate it. That was awesome. I know like it's really late. I mean, it's late for me right now. I'm still in the office. So I really appreciate your guys' time because it ain't easy to hop on a Zoom call at 7 p.m. It's one thing to do it at on the AM, but the PM is kind of more rough. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time. And thank you again. Have a great
Uh,
evening.
just one last thing is we have another, since we mentioned the 7 o'clock Zooms, we have another one coming up in 2 weeks on revising your resume after your internship. So that will also be super valuable, and we're looking forward to that. And thank all the panelists so much. You guys were spectacular.
Thanks for having us. Have a good night,
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Thanks so much.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Thank
Everyone have a
you.
good night.
For everything.
Bye.
Have a good night.